stewardship is super important to me. Last thing I want to do is waste money or spend it twice. So knowing what that win looks like before you start is the first way to get going.
So Bobby, thank you for joining me for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host, as always, Matt Camp, head of partnerships here at DealMachine. And on these, we really like to share a spotlight with industry experts like yourself, hear how you see the real estate world evolving. So today, really excited to welcome on Bobby Triplett. I know you're part of Offerpad, which is a publicly traded company. You guys do, was it 12,000 flips a month? Or what?
Well, no, in our height, we were doing about 1,200.
1,200. I mean, still crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we did that for a number of years. So I oversee the renovation division, official titles SVP, but that just means I'm on an airplane a lot. I'm in the field all the time.
Amazing.
So,
well, I'm glad we could do this in person.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So I know that you guys really team up with real estate investors, that you can help them take down deals, you have trusted contractors in pretty much any major city. So tell us more about Offerpad, and then I'd love to hear more about your journey too.
Yeah. So the long and short of it, we're called an iBuyer, which means instant buyer. So we buy thousands of homes a year.
Yep. My
teams renovate them across the country, and then we sell them. And about 2.5 years ago, we pivoted, still doing our main offering, the instant cash offering, but helping some of the largest REITs, some of the biggest REOs in the country, institutional single-family rentals. And in the last probably year, the private shops, the private investors, the private single-family rentals do our renovations as a service. So I built a massive team around the country.
Amazing.
We've done about 40,000 flips over the last 9 years.
Wow.
And we've got it down to a science, and I've got incredible people. So we started leveraging our teams to renovate on as a service. So instead of going and having an investor have to hire the wrong project manager, figure out the wrong way, you know what I mean?
Learn the hard lessons.
Or not have the buying power, whatever, we partner. Basically, you can lease my capacity in any of the cities that we're in around the country.
Awesome. Well, as you know, with our audience, I'd say a lot of people who are either interested in real estate, are working on that first deal all the way through to the more advanced investor. But pretty much any exit strategy we see people using DealMachine for. I know a lot are in that wholesaling bucket, but then maybe have aspirations to move into flipping. So can you tell us more on, how you guys can be a resource for those individuals?
Absolutely.
Love to start there.
The easiest thing is we'll tell people is if you've got a project that you've identified, you've underwritten it, you're under contract and you're in due diligence, they're sending us over an email once they onboard as a client. And then we're sending one of our local project managers who's a W-2 employee of mine to go look at the house through the lens of hey, what would we do with it if it was Offerpad, right?
Yep.
So you're getting that, decade of industry experience and all of the scars of what not to do. You know what I mean? When flipping a house, you don't have to learn those lessons the hard way.
Yep.
I already learned them a few years ago, the very hard way. And so that PM will go out there, get a detailed scope of work. We'll schedule up with you to review that. And if it makes sense for you as a client, then once the property is yours, we get out there, we take your home and put it in our machine like it was our own home. So, I'll spend roughly $100 million a year on labor, materials, supplies. So I'm getting volume discounts on flooring and on paint and on purchase materials. And then I've got about 1,500 licensed, bonded, and insured specialty trade subcontractors, suppliers around the country that when we give them a job, they're treating it like it's an Offerpad house. Yeah. So your investors and your clients and your colleagues, instead of okay, we'll squeeze you in between these 3 jobs in 40 days, we submit a work order and they show up in 24 hours.
Yeah. You're part of their team.
Yeah. And so then my people in the field, they're managing the projects. So we really help your colleagues, your clients, be able to do what they love to do, which is sourcing the deal, closing the deal, finding the next one, underwriting. And then we step in as a partner to handle all the renovation operation for you. When it's said and done, we put a bow on it. We send it back to you, list or market ready, whatever you want to do with it. Whether you're turning it into a rental or if you're turning it into just a fix and flip.
And is it just simply, service fee, or how does that work?
So basically when we send over pricing to you, it's our wholesale pricing. I call it tax tag title out the door. Everything is included. What the margin that we have, the taxes that we pay, the labor, the materials. So
Nice.
if it's a $32,000 renovation, it's a $32,000 renovation.
Yep.
It's not $32,000 plus a PM fee and a GC fee and an extra fee. It's fully baked.
Yep.
And what's really cool about that is, if some of your listeners decide they want to come on as a client,
yep.
we'll get them a regional pricing breakdown on probably the top 10 major things that we do, so that can help inform their underwrite.
That's cool.
So they'll know it costs me X amount, costs me this amount of money in Tampa, Florida to paint a house.
Yep.
So I can just, per square footage, put in this number, and then I'll know, hey, what my paint bill is going to be before I even take down the house. Or if it costs me this amount of money per square foot to do flooring, you'll know it. So that'll inform an underwrite, as opposed to hey, let me pull this out of my rear. How much is it going to cost?
Right.
Because numbers are changing, and for us, because we do so much volume, we're very consistent on what our pricing is.
Yep.
And it's not constantly changing.
Yeah, I'd say the predictability of that is so valuable. One, appreciate you being in person is great.
Yeah.
Two, being just a great resource for the community. I'll make sure that we link to that if
people
want to reach out to you.
Yeah.
Awesome to hear how you work with people. And again, that predictability is great. I think it's limits the risk for the individual, especially when it's they're a newbie like that.
Sure. It's interesting, man. We have a couple hard money lenders that have come to us because we're publicly traded, so that instantly negates a big risk.
Yeah.
For them, and they're saying to their first time borrowers, hey, we are more apt to lend to you if you're renovating with Offerpad, because we know you're not going to run off with a deposit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we have a very consistent time frame of when, if we tell you it's going to be done on this day, unless something happened crazy, it's going to be done on that day. We're very consistent. So that's been an interesting avenue that I wasn't expecting. So we'll have a handful of hard money lenders that asked to create, hey, referrals. Can we refer them to you?
Huh.
Absolutely, you can. And
cool.
It's been a good thing for them too. You know what I mean?
So the funding side could be also as could be taken care of there.
Sure. Yeah.
Nice. So one thing I was curious. I know you've done. Like you said, thousands and thousands of these. Can you give us a little bit of the crash course on the flip itself?
Yeah.
I know, again, our audience, may have quite a few people who either have tried a flip, didn't go so well, or, are considering doing a flip.
Sure.
Either, they're wanting to work up to it. I'd love to hear kind of your crash course, and then maybe some of those key red flags to look out for, key things to navigate.
Well, the first thing I think on any successful flip or renovation is you got to know what the win looks like.
Yep.
Where most people fail is, all right, it's budget driven. So I've got $20K to put into this house. Mm-hmm. And then you get in there and you realize that $20K only went so far, but then you watched HTV the other day and now I want to shiplap this. And what if I change the paint color on this? And maybe I need to paint these cabinets, or maybe if I add this landscaping thing, and all of a sudden that $20K went to 40, went to 60, and you've out renovated your comps.
Right.
And then you're throwing good money at a problem that didn't exist if you would have just stayed within your boundaries. So for me, if I could keep anybody from making the worst mistake on this, which is having a moving target, you've got to know what the win is before you start. Hey, because if it's a rental property, you're going to approach that completely different than a flip.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what I mean? Because we have some pretty strict repair replace guidelines when we're doing that. We try to help our clients adhere to, because stewardship is super important to me. Last thing I want to do is waste money or spend it twice.
Yep.
If I can help save somebody a problem that way. So knowing what that win looks like before you start is the first way to get going. The second thing I think is making sure whoever you're partnering with on your renovation side is an actual partner, as opposed to just a vendor. If they are just a vendor, they will squeeze you in on their time.
Yeah, totally different mindset.
Right. And they're honestly their most important thing is looking out for their best interests, as opposed to partnering with you and giving you that information. A lot of times, both on the GC side or on the specialty trade side, they're looking at it I got to get everything I can on this one job because I'm never going to get another one from this person. So margins are higher, quality sometimes can be lower. They're trying to squeeze you in with a bunch of different other things. So then the attention to detail is not there. So starting out right and then making sure you have the right players on the field, that honestly is a game changer.
That's huge right there.
Yeah.
Love it. Man, well, that's super helpful. I briefly mentioned a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us more about your personal journey and role? And yeah.
Never in a million years did I expect that this was the career that I was going to be in. So for the first 15 years of my career, I was a minister. And
No way.
so I was in Tampa. I helped plant a couple churches, and I thought I was going to be a rock star. I was a worship pastor at a church, and then I was a senior pastor, and ended up going through a divorce in 2013. So stepped down from doing ministry full time. And one of the guys that was in my church, I'll never forget this. He was the president of Invitation Homes, Tampa, Florida, right? And out of the Tampa office. And so Invitation Homes, one of the largest single family residential companies in the country, like 120,000 doors, you know what I mean? And this was early on in their journey. They're publicly traded now. And he's like, hey, I just need a leader. Like, I know you're figuring out stuff in your personal life, but like, can you bring your leadership here? And I was like, I guess, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, here we go. And it was a lot of faking it till you're making it. But as far as like, I didn't know any of these contractors, you know, I'd had experience doing that. And but it wasn't like my bread and butter, and just basically took a lot of the leadership stuff that I had been using for the last 15 years and brought it into the space. And man, it felt like a whole different world, big corporate, you know what I mean? You know, coming from a ministry side. And within 2 years, I was helping running the whole division. And then I got recruited out of there to go run a big GC firm. That was funny. It was a GC that we had parted ways with. And from when I was with Invitation Homes, and they had asked me to come help fix them. And it was interesting. So I saw it from the fund side, the big REIT side, and then I went from the GC side. And then Offerpad asked me to help start Offerpad Tampa. We're originally out of Phoenix. That's where our headquarters is. And Tampa was their first new market. So I helped them launch that. And
wow. And how many markets you said now?
26.
Wow.
And so I've helped them launch every market since.
That's crazy.
And it's been a wild ride. You know, I am not as property centric as I used to be, but I have the only way we're able to do thousands and thousands of these flips every year, both for ourselves and for our clients, is because I have amazing people. And so in every one of our markets, there's a director that runs the state. And then he or she's got multiple project managers hired geographically throughout the state to handle territories. And then I've got a great number 2 named DJ. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, he's in charge. Everybody knows it. You know what I mean? He oversees all my field operations around the country. So we've got, you know, the ability to be super property specific, granular, and then have accountability in those markets, and then have accountability in the regions. And then they joke about it all the time. Like, I'll go out and make promises, and they're the ones that have to keep them. And they do such an amazing job of partnering with our clients. It's pretty cool, because in this, like, for the first, I don't know, 6.5 years, I was purely operational. We were doing 1,200 flips of our own a month, and it's probably the most stressed I've ever been out of my mind.
Intense.
You know what I mean? At that time, we were spending about $300 million a year just in labor and material, and it was my team was probably 300 to 400 bodies, W-2s across the country.
That's crazy.
Obviously, it's significantly less than that now with the way interest rates are at a scalable volume. But in that, like, man, just doubling down on the very same things that I did in my first 15 years, which was leadership development and coaching and vision casting. Like, that's what I've been just, daily exercising with our people. And it's awesome, because when you spend the time to do that, they already have the vision. They already know what we're doing. They know why we're doing this, with both for ourselves and why we do it for partners like you guys.
That's great. Yeah. I know we talked about leadership a little bit when you walked in the room.
Man. I saw your Jocko over there.
There you go.
Like, our team, they all have a copy of that one. We just finished one called Nobody's Coming to Save You, a Green Berets Guide to Getting Big Shit Done. It was by a guy named Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann. And it was...
We'll link to that then, too.
An incredible book. He was one of the first commanders there in Afghanistan, and he was talking about that and sharing. He talks about sharing the scar stories. You know what I mean? And we just got back from a leadership summit where I take all of my directors, and 2 days of intensive. There's business stuff you're doing, but it's a lot of leadership development. And we gifted each one of them with that book so that they could take it. And then the goal is, once you're done reading it, pass it on to one of your people. That book, The Extreme Ownership by Jocko, like, that has probably been passed around more than any library has ever passed around a book on my team. You know what I mean? It's wild.
That's amazing. So I mean, we definitely have a good number of people watching this that are probably newer leaders or people that are starting to grow that team, really get traction there, scale that. What advice do you have for a new leader like that? Like, I know that's a big question, but I'd love to hear how you'd have that conversation with a new leader.
I would say the same way that I'm asking you to know what your win looks like on a property. Like, know what your win looks like as a team.
Yep.
Like, what would that look like if we're winning? What does that mean? And that doesn't mean good numbers, more profit, whatever. Like how does, like, that's the what you're trying to do, but how are you getting there?
Yep.
Like, what would that look like? And I've been a big disciple of a guy named Simon Sinek. Once I read his book Starts With Why.
Yep.
Like, blew my mind. I mean, it's very simple, but like, wow, if we don't understand the motivation or the intention or the why behind it, like, we could be going off on the wrong direction, spinning our wheels and not even know it.
Yeah.
And like,
we might have that book. No, we don't have it over there, but I know it was in this room before.
Yeah. That was one of the ones. So kind of distilling down like what the why. And one thing I love that he talks about, like, he's never like, if your why is to be the best, you've already failed. There's always somebody going to be better. Like, being the best should be nobody's motivation because it's unachievable.
Right.
So why, like, distill it down as a leader. Why are you doing what you're doing? And that could be financial freedom for your family. It could be some yacht that you're trying to buy.
Yeah, I was going to say that applies so directly to you just the why. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Like the why behind you being even in real estate.
Yeah.
Well, why are you using DealMachine every day?
Because nobody gets into real estate to clean up hoarder houses because it's fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, nobody likes to, crawl through very distressed properties to find where that leak is happening. We've done that a million times. And so if that's not the motivation, then understanding what that why is, I really feel like as a new leader, until you're able to really identify that, you could be doing a lot of busy work. And I don't know about you, like, I've got a 14-year-old son. I can't get him to do his regular homework, let alone any busy work. You know what I mean? And so, like, nobody enjoys like wasting time and energy. So that would probably be my first and most important leadership recommendation there.
Love that. Yeah, I've got an 8, 6, and 4-year-old, so I get it. Man. I get it.
Yeah.
Amazing. So one thing you talked about was the funding side as well, and that's something that I know our audience is always trying to learn, that underwriting process. Do you have any lessons learned there on, what is a good deal? What does that look like? Like, can our audience, any advice there on how they can really assess and say, hey, this is a great fit to contact you guys? Like,
sure.
Anything you've got
so
there?
I've never been on the acquisition side, but we've always worked hand in glove with our acquisitions teams around the country.
Cool.
And I think the best way for them on the acquisition side to understand whether the deal is going to pencil out or not is the communication with what it's going to cost on the back end, right? For us, being able to, let me back up in a second. Like, in renovation, there's 3 things. They call it the golden triangle: speed, quality, and cost. And you only get 2 out of the 3.
Yep.
Always. And so when the acquisition team is trying to pencil out this deal, for us being able to have so much volume, we kind of get like 2.5 out of the 3. I can't dictate pricing, but I can say, hey, here's what we are paying for X, Y, and Z type of things, obviously depending on what markets happen and all stuff like that, but like, can have consistent pricing that allows our acquisition teams to really be able to know wisely and quickly, is this going to pencil out? Is this too much? What's interesting about that communication back and forth, like, we've had a number of times, like, where if the pricing is tight, like, hey, it barely pencils, if my team can get it done faster, now I shave 10 days off of the hold cost, 10 days off of utilities, 10 days off of debt, 10 days off of whatever, and it gets sold faster. Now all of a sudden that ROI went up into the right. And so being able to know what you can deliver or what you can expect once the house is yours, which is very difficult to do, right?
Yeah, that's huge.
Which is why, we're leveraging our expertise there. That always can affect the acquisition. I'll tell people all the time, we have a chance to be the hero or the scapegoat, right?
Yep.
You had a decent deal and I'm 20 days late on it, and I missed on quality, or I forgot to do something, and now it's taken forever to sell on the market, and now the buyer wants concession X, Y, and Z. Like, instantly, well, it's Renault's fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If Renault got it done on time or faster, or was able to like do things that, like, confirming quality was there and making sure the permits were dialed in beforehand and after, making sure it's on a silver platter with a bow ahead of schedule, then we can be the hero every time. You can take a loser deal, because we all have bought loser deals before, right? And you could turn that into a break even or a win, or you could take a break even deal and turn it into a really good ROI, or you could take, hey, this was going to be marginal, and then now, because, you were not prepared, you did not know what a win looked like in the field before you started. Now all of a sudden it turns into a loser. So I have a hero complex, so I would much rather
Yeah.
ride in on the white horse and save the day every day as opposed to being the villain
It's
every
got to feel
time.
good.
Yeah.
Man. I love how you guys think about it. Again, appreciate you being a resource for us overall. We've got a lot of people who are newer in that space, and appreciate the kind of the leadership advice there too. So,
yeah, I mean, that matters to me. You know what I mean? And like my hope is like, and we preach this all the time, like trying to leave everything better than we found it.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't just mean our bottom line, right? I'll tell my vendor partners around the country, like, you guys need to make money and I need to save money, and we both need to do it together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could find that happy medium between that, they will bleed for you. They will show up for you. They'll answer your call. The same thing is with our clients. Like, hey, like, you need to save money and I need to make money, and we need to, like, there's a place where we can do both if we know what we're doing, and if we approach it from that partnership. I really think you end up leaving the communities better than you found it. The contractors that are working locally,
just win all the way around.
Your employees, whoever's going to end up buying the house next. You know what I mean? Like, is it something that they can be confident in? Which I'll tell you, like, one last free advice, unsolicited here. Like,
that's why you're here.
if you are taking down a house especially on a fix and flip, you hear these terms like thrown out: clean, safe, functional. You'll see those. That's a big industry, anachronism there. And so, I'll tell you what's almost even more important, and this is where I feel like a lot of people will stub their toe, is it needs to be clean, safe, functional, but mostly insurable. If it's not insurable, I've seen so many people like waste their money on cosmetics with an uninsurable electrical panel. And now they try to sell it on the open market, and Joe homeowner can't get a homeowner's policy without that panel being changed out. Or polybutylene piping, or like a foundation issue, or hey, there's less than 5 usable years of life on the roof and it's not going to even qualify for an FHA grade loan. So like, man, why did we spend the money shiplapping the wall or putting in a brand new kitchen if somebody can't get a policy? And in certain parts of the country, that's even more paramount than others. Like where I live in Tampa, Florida, you've got hurricane regulations, and anybody near the water, like, you need permits to pull permits, basically. And insurance is a very tenuous situation because of when there are disasters and storms, and companies don't want to keep insuring, they're losing money. So like, whatever you can do as the investor to make sure it's insurable. I'm not saying this carte blanche, but like, that's almost more important than cosmetic. And once it's insurable, then, okay, that's tier one of what we have to get done. Then what can we do cosmetically to this house?
So start there.
Start there.
That's interesting.
Because I will tell you, you'll burn houses down. I've been there. I've done it, and I've had to fix them after I did it. You know what I mean? Because of electrical panels that were 80 years old. You know what I mean? Or stuff like that.
You're in it long enough, you're gonna see that. So,
100%.
Man, this was great. Last question I did have for you. So I know you talked about the leadership development, retreat and everything. What's kind of next for Offerpad? Like, how are you guys, evolving? Like, how's your, even your teams evolving? Like, love to hear that if you can
So
share
we're
some.
Still daily offering the cash offer. If you go to offerpad.com, we'll make an instant offer on your home. That's still our like core foundational offering. The renovation-as-a-service is probably our second big pillar, where we're expanding on that. We're only 2.5 years into doing this for other people. Like we were our own client,
right?
And then now we are our client plus about 55 other investors around the country that we're renovating for. So we're doubling that, and we're expanding. My team specifically, we get asked that all the time to be in markets that we're not currently in, and if we have great relationships with our clients and we've got volume that's consistent, like, we're expanding. Like, last year we expanded into Minneapolis. Offerpad as a whole is not in Minneapolis, but we had a couple clients that were begging us to go there. And so we ended up, putting a flag in the ground and making some hires and bringing on some trades. And, now that's a big market for us. And so, we're constantly asked to expand. And so my team is, okay, where can we say yes, or when can we say yes? The other things Offerpad that's on the horizon is we do a lot of investor sourcing. So the tens of thousands of people that go to offerpad.com every month, we don't buy every one of those homes.
Right.
A lot of times we'll take them under contract for investors. We buy a lot for the big 5 hedge funds that everybody knows about in the rental space. But in the last year and a half, we've had some great opportunity on private shops, mid-sized REITs, smaller SFRs, to help source, both sourcing deals for them, and then for the first time in a very long time in our company, getting deals sourced from other wholesalers.
Mm-hmm.
So expanding that. And then we've got some really cool agent partnerships that we're getting ready to roll out. And since there's not been a press release, I won't go into all that yet. I don't want to, but there's some really exciting things on the horizon. It's wild, even in the midst of, some rate uncertainty and volatility that's got everybody a little puckered up. Like, the leadership of our company is doing a great job not being, pigeonholed into a corner and saying, well, this is the only thing we offer. We've really evolved and become that solution center that we've always wanted to be.
Yeah.
For me, like, it's my first time, dipping my toe into some of these real estate masterminds.
Which is how we originally met.
Yeah, exactly.
I know Collective Genius we've had on quite a few members. We've had on Jason and Leon and Brian, a bunch of the leadership there. So,
and it's wild because my whole tenure in this space has been on the institutional side.
Mm-hmm.
So working with the big REITs, with the big hedge funds, with the publicly traded companies and in the last year, I'm having an absolute blast in the masterminds, getting to not only influence, affect, and partner with the private investors and
find our community.
I love it. Yeah. And I'm having, making new friends, get to share an adult beverage or break some bread or whatever it is. And then, I'm constantly on an airplane in all of our markets. And so what's been fun is, the multiple different clients that I get to see when I go into those markets, and then the stories we get to share and the wins we get to have. And
it's cool.
It's fun, man. I'm learning too. Yeah.
I can tell you're having fun. So, amazing. Bobby, can you tell people, especially the renovation as a service piece, how people can connect with you one more time?
Super easy. Go to offerpad.com/renovate. There's a quick, easy form you can fill out in there, and it'll get sent right to my team. We'll set up a one-on-one 30 minutes just so that we can understand what a win looks like for you.
Yeah.
You'll hear that theme a lot as you talk to me.
There you go.
And then we'll get started on the project if it's the right fit. And it's super simple.
Amazing. Well, appreciate it, Bobby.
Hey, man,
great conversation.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. And everyone watching, this is Matt Camp again with Deal Machine, and happy deal finding.